Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode number 19 of the RDO Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jason Von Cannell, with my brother and co-host, Alex Von Cannell. How are you, brother?
Oh, I'm good. I've been busy. Well, I say I've been busy, but now I think it's all over.
Right.
So I'm basically going to be on holidays, I think, now.
Yeah, because the Christmas season is kicking into gear.
Yes.
And...
Did all my Christmas shopping yesterday afternoon, so it was a Friday afternoon.
Right.
So there was like no rushes, did 90% of it, went straight to the wrapping station and they wrapped it all.
Yep.
No lines, nothing. Easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's usually about, 12th today. So it's usually about a week and a half from now when my anxiety kicks in, because I haven't started yet.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, because I've got more time, I'm sure I'll still leave it till last week.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how we roll. But tis the season again, so I've got the Christmas vest on today. Was tossing up whether or not to wear a shirt underneath it. Definitely thought it was a good idea.
I wish you'd told me, because I walked past some of the funniest Christmas shirts.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to buy some Christmas shorts.
Right. But
then Tasha told me that I've got Christmas t-shirts that I bought about 5 years ago that have only been worn 5 times.
Yeah, so crack them out.
Yeah, I would have cracked them out today.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, well,
because we've got another one closer to the... We'll be potting right up to it.
Yeah, exactly right. But I thought I would do this all in December, because tis the season.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, big week this week. I tried a new weight loss fad this week, where it's supposed to just like melt the fat straight out of your body
from
your insides. Yeah, whole family got gastro, and that's not fun. So I've had gastro before. Obviously, we've all had gastro before, and it's not fun. It's really not fun when you've got an infant as well. That's way less fun.
I think most things are less fun with an infant.
No, there's some things that are fun.
Yeah.
He's walking. Kid's walking. He started doing about a week ago. He's been holding himself up and sort of pattering around for a while, but he's just decided he can walk now. And now it's like, that's not good enough for him. So now his thing is climbing. So forget the cot, because now he can climb out of the cot. He wants to constantly try to climb up over the back of the couches and almost kill himself off the back of them too.
Why don't you just get the cot? So obviously the cot is basically like an open-topped jail cell.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just...
You can get lids for them.
Oh, okay.
It's a little...
Why? Practical? Too practical, is it?
No.
Makes too much sense, does it?
Yeah, but then it's just like keeping babies in cages.
You're going to get leptospirosis. Did you wipe the top of that can?
No, I didn't.
So you just had gastro, you're going to roll with
I'm glad that we both relearned the word leptospirosis. See, at least we're learning something from the RDO podcast. Leptospirosis. Yeah. Delicious. Especially when you mix it with caffeine as well.
So you got gastro?
Yeah, got gastro.
Whole family got
it. We became a bit of a super spreader family because we ended up giving it to some friends of ours as well, because we went to visit them before we all knew that we had gastro, because it didn't really kick in for us for another 24 hours. Gastro is probably the only thing in the world that spreads faster than COVID.
And what's
it's probably more frowned upon than COVID as well.
And what's hilarious is that there's no rush on toilet paper, but you need it. Whereas with COVID, everyone rushes to toilet paper and doesn't use it.
Yeah, that was, when you really look back at that, was really funny, wasn't it? That was such a funny phenomenon.
It keeps happening. It happens again though when they talked about lockdowns in certain areas.
Everyone just rushed over to get toilet paper.
Yeah.
You could just wash your bum in the shower if you had to.
Yeah, but no, I don't understand why you think your consumption's going to increase unless people are absolutely abusing their workplaces and just stealing so many.
There will be that many people who nick toilet rolls from work.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
But the other theory too is that it looks like people are panic buying up all the toilet paper because it takes up so much room on the shelf. And
when you've got a trolley that's exclusively full of toilet paper,
you're
hoarding toilet paper.
Yeah.
When there is a limit, I just thought, are we savage beasts?
Yes.
Where we can't even organise...
We're savage beasts that just shit constantly.
Where we cannot organise as a society to at least share that with mankind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was... I don't know. It's such an interesting thing for me that was the item that so many people panic bought. Like you could go to the shops and there was still like fruit and vegetables available. You know, like healthy shit. But toilet paper was the go-to.
Things that can boost your immune system. Nah.
Yeah, nah. Like
toilet paper.
There's still heaps of vitamins and stuff there on the shelves, but yeah, all the toilet paper's gone. So
interesting.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting. You know.
Let's not do that. Let the RDO podcast community take a stand against hoarding of toilet paper.
Yeah, just wash your ass in the sink.
Let's be the bastions of
Let's be next level humans and wash our asses in the sink. But yeah, so pretty much for me this week it's been, you know, gastro at the start of the week, which was super not fun. We do feel like we may have picked it up from a particular childcare centre because we were looking at childcare centres last week, so we're looking at putting Nate in maybe 1 day a week from next year, just to get him some socialisation and us a day a week time off, which would be nice. Found a centre we really like too, so we'll do that, which would be good. But yeah, apart from that, it's just been gastro and Nate walking, which is kind of big news. Like 10.5 months, that's way sooner than I thought it should be, but it's what it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Killing it. So what have you been up to this week?
This week I've just been doing a little bit of trade to try, like dealer to dealer stuff. Again, I think it's going to be really quiet over the holiday break, so there's no point in me going and stocking the yard up when my workshop's going to close. You know, any parts that I need are probably going to get harder to get. So instead of stocking up, I'll probably just leave my stock where it's at. Like my shed's almost full anyway. And then just chill.
Can I just say, I just thought of a point. Anyone who's thinking of looking at a car during this period, because obviously a lot of people take time off and they've got holidays and stuff like that, the dealerships will be open like up until Christmas Eve. And usually we'll close early on Christmas Eve, depending on how many customers are around. Don't come in late on Christmas Eve. It's actually a real dick move.
Yeah, but there's people that don't celebrate Christmas. It's just another day for them.
Yeah, I know. But they can still have respect for other people.
But it might be the only day that they have available.
Yeah, so go in the morning. That's all I'm saying.
But they might work in the mornings.
Fuck those people. But yeah, there's always one customer that at least will be around at each dealership. I reckon they coordinate.
I think what I'd say more so is if you are on holidays in another area, not like away from your home, that's probably not the time to go and do your vehicle research on Christmas Eve. That's
a good point too.
Even though you've got the intentions to buy, but you're going to go buy it from your
local dealer.
Dealer. Like, let those people go home.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of dealerships actually won't let their staff leave early.
No.
You know, so just restrain yourself.
Just be a good human.
Yeah.
Now to the subject that we're going to speak about this week. So last week we spoke about recruitment and.
I just got
an actual
tea leaf.
Yeah, nice.
Tea leaf.
So yeah, last week we spoke about recruitment and we spoke about you know, the different ways of getting recruited, of picking a new career or a new job, or you know, some things to think about. So this week we wanted to speak about career progression, because obviously a lot of people are actually going to watch podcasts like this. It's because you are interested in actually getting yourself to the next level. So we've written some notes down this week as well, which we might just crack straight into. So
I want to start only because I've seen this. I've been victim of this myself, and I've seen it happen countless times. The first point that I wrote down is if you're looking at being promoted, make sure you are the best at what you're doing at your current level. Okay, so especially for young people with a big ego, you think you're ready for the next one. Like, oh, I want that promotion, I want that promotion, I want that promotion. Don't even bother asking the question until you know that your house is in order.
Yeah.
Are your KPIs being reached on a month-to-month basis? Can you be depended on by management? Like, will your team come to you for help?
Yeah.
And are you helping that team? Have you got, are your customers happy? Is your attention to detail, without question? Tick those things off first, and once you have mastered that, that's when you can put yourself in a position to ask for the next level.
Yeah, you need to earn the right to ask for a promotion.
Yep.
And we say that in sales all the time with selling a product. You need to earn the right to ask your customer for their business. And the way earning the right comes is when you actually give that other party enough value so that you've actually put enough capital in the moral bank to be able to ask for what you want. I think that's a really good point. I think, and again, if I reflect back on my own experience, when I joined the car industry, I came from a business where I was managing it for 2.5 years, and I just thought I was just going to roll in and learn the basics of the job, and in 6 months' time I was going to be a sales manager. And obviously it completely 100% wasn't the case, because it took me 6 months to realise how little I knew about the new thing that I was in. Now, yeah, you do need to make sure you're kicking goals, but kicking goals can be seen in multiple different ways. So again, if you want to relate it back to sales, and obviously we're not just talking about sales roles here, but a lot of people think if I sell the most cars, I should be the next sales manager. But are you getting really good customer service surveys? Are you getting, are your customers coming back for servicing? Or are you trading enough vehicles? Or are you doing all the other facets of the job?
Is your admin department happy with the quality of paperwork that's coming through? Are your team members happy with the way that you go around business? Are you doing...
That's right. Are you selling the most cars because you stab all your other salespeople in the back? That's the stuff that you need to look at. So yeah, really, really good point.
I think we go to your next point, which is probably the next step. So once you've mastered that...
So you need to act the position you want before they'll give it to you. So, and this is something it's actually surprising how many times I've heard this in not even my career, but just in life in general, even just talking to friends and stuff like that, when it's people are going, man, I can do that job with my eyes closed, and then their boss comes and asks them to do a little bit of added responsibility, and they go, I'm not getting paid for that. I'm not doing that. Pay me for it. And it's well, maybe it's actually them trying to get you to show that you can actually do that before they'll then give it to you.
I had that feeling early on. I was like, well, no, I'm not going to give you that capacity of mine until you pay for it. And then I realised that way is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll never get the option to showcase it.
That's right.
Because when I moved to a management role and I was getting people to in the same sort of scenario, and yet I'd say to them, I don't know what you can do. I actually don't know. I need a sample first. I need a test drive first. And then I'll feel more confident in making that decision.
Because the other thing that you need to consider as well, and this is in most fields and most professions, if you want to step up to the next level, which is usually going from a staff member to a manager, they're different skill sets. So just because you can do your job extremely well doesn't necessarily mean that you can be a good manager. So if you're being asked to do added responsibility, it's probably because they're trying to test the waters of what else you can actually offer the organisation before they actually give you the keys to the building and go, hey, now you can run it.
Trust, we didn't speak about. You need to be trustworthy.
Yes.
That's probably the main... when you mention keys, that's a really good point. When you are given not just the keys to the building, but in effect the keys to make change or the keys to affect other team members' livelihoods, you need to be able to build a massive level of trust in yourself, and that's going to come through doing the right thing at the right time.
That's right.
Whether it's seen or unseen.
Yeah, and look, that's where integrity comes in, right?
Yeah.
Integrity is doing the right thing whether people are watching or not.
For sure.
So yeah, you do need to do that. So with acting the position you want, I wrote down a couple of extra points too. So things like personal dress and presentation. So unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm not a fashion guy. I hate it, as you can see. But if you want certain roles, in most organisations, you're expected to look a certain way. So take care of your presentation, because again, you might not be in a sales role, but if you want a promotion, you're selling yourself. You're always got to be selling. So personal dress and presentation. Like you said before, briefly, what are the priorities of that job, and can you assist those from the position that you're already in? So, to relate it back to the sales sort of scenario, if you're a salesperson and you know that a sales manager needs either a certain number of vehicles sold or delivered or whatever, can you take the trainee aside and start upskilling them just on your own accord? Because you already got some skills. So can you actually offer some training to the trainee kid that's there and show that you're already starting to manage that person without being a manager? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So adding some value. A really good point too, which my wife actually gave me as well, is oftentimes your company website will actually have a strategic intent document on it, which is pretty much just a document that states what the values of the company are and what they're working towards, like a mission statement. Go on your website and see if it's on there. Like, if it is, read it. So then you know what direction the company is trying to go in and what things you can do extra in your day to actually show that you understand that you're trying to push towards it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any more thoughts on that?
Well, no. I think that's assuming the role, being the next go-to person besides your manager. So if your manager's swamped, do the people come to you for help, and do you give them that help?
That's right.
Okay, because I've seen it 1,000 times before where someone harbours all the knowledge and is not willing to impart on that, and that person, in my mind, that person does not deserve a promotion because they haven't displayed teamwork.
And that's the whole thing. Like, how can you be expected to be a manager in charge of a team of people if you're not willing to share information? Mm-hmm. And we spoke about this last week about being mushroomed, like, feeding people shit and keeping them in the dark. That's old school, because that's by people who are scared of people beneath them taking their jobs. Yeah. That's not how we should be working these days. It should be, upskill every single person in that organisation the best you possibly can, because, hey, if one of these people gets good enough to take your job, you're probably going to go up the chain as well.
Yep.
There's sort of another point that...
I've got the next point, or is yours?
I was just going to say, as part of this, obviously when you're at that level, so we're talking about being the next go-to guy. I did write a point that probably relates to that, which is build strong relationships from day one and with everyone in the organisation. So we've all worked in a setting where you've got that person who shooting for the next promotion, right? They're shooting for it because they just suck up the ass of the manager or the CEO or whoever, but they don't give value to anyone else in the organisation they're so transparent, and they'll never have the support of the staff because all they do is, it is just clear as day, they're just in it for themselves. And at the end of the day, management's not about being in it for yourself, it's about being in it for the company and the people that work for you.
Yeah.
So build your strong relationships from day one with every single person in the organisation. Give value to everyone in every interaction as well. So if you give value out, you'll receive value back. And people will see that too. And that is what makes you that next go-to guy, is when people, or girl, is when people come back to you and go, hey, I need help with this, I need help with that. If you're already receiving those questions and requests from people that are your peers, when you're just, on the same level as them, they'll be comfortable to come to you and ask those same questions when you are a manager as well.
I'll give you a really practical example of how to show that. So, in terms of the relationship building, everyone within a given organisation has their role to play. Mm-hmm. And each role is as important as the next, whether you're remunerated the same way or not.
Yeah.
And in all organisations, there'll be someone that's paid a lot less, right? And someone who's going to get paid a lot more. But to give you the tip, if you took that person away that gets paid a lot less, this person doesn't function.
Yeah.
Okay? So, with that in mind, have you taken into account what the people outside of your particular department, but you interact with, what they go through on a day-to-day basis? Do you know how they are affected by decisions that you make?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're slack on a particular part of your process, are you negatively affecting them?
Mm-hmm.
And have you found out? Have you inquired as the best way for them to receive the information from you?
Mm-hmm.
And have you streamlined that process? Have you thought about those things?
Mm.
Now, you can only find out that information if you open a dialogue with them.
That's right.
Okay, and a lot of people will say, okay, this is your role, here's your business card, and this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to be an advanced player, it's about relationships and it's about bringing everyone together. Okay, so I'm not going to just make a decision because this is the way it's always been made.
Mm-hmm.
Well, have I taken into consideration the person down the line or up the line?
Yep.
What do they go through? What do I need to do to make their life easier? Does that make my life easier? I'll give you the tip. If they're happy and I'm happy and all I need to change is a little tweak here and there, do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, those investments in that moral bank account, they will reap rewards for you in the future. Because I've been in that scenario that many times when you need a favour and you need, like, usually a favour is urgent
Mm-hmm.
and you need it right now. And I've been fortunate that because I've built relationships and I have tried to play to the structures of people around me, more often than not, those favours are granted.
Yep.
Like, little point just on this stuff. Say hello to everyone. So when you walk into a business in the morning, say hi to everyone, all your co-workers. Say hi to all the clients that are in there.
Mm.
It is the most simple thing, but you're actually bringing happiness to someone's day by acknowledging that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll tell you right now, there is nothing that turns off staff from their managers more than when the manager rolls in, doesn't say hello to anyone, goes straight into their office, comes out, tells everyone what they're doing wrong and what they need to do today, skulks back into the office, and then skulks out in the afternoon without saying goodbye to everyone. That's not leadership.
Yep.
At all. So it's very simple. Say hello to everyone. And I think this is something that you did extremely well in your career. Have a sense of humour.
Mm.
Have a sense of humour. Bring the value of joy and humour to the work that you're doing as well.
Mm.
Because, you know, if people, you've got two options. You can do the same amount of work either with a smile on your face or without one.
Yeah.
I prefer to do it with a smile on my face. So I thought that was really important.
And to have your team members have your back.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you've taken step one, you've mastered your craft,
Yep.
you've assumed the role.
Yep.
I would also I would inform my manager and potentially higher up what your intentions are,
Yes.
right? So that you're in with the shot, but asking what steps can I take to help me get there? Not expecting it right now,
That's right.
but what can I do extra to put myself in good favour for that role?
Yep.
And let them say it. Don't just assume, when we say assume the role, you might be overstepping the mark by doing
That's right.
certain things.
Yep.
But ask them, so look, I want to move to the next level, what my intention is, I think I've checked off all the previous boxes, what more can I do to help me get there?
Yeah.
And work collaboratively with your manager to
Mm-hmm.
work on that succession plan.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because, like, if you've ever worked in any sort of organisation with a hierarchy, which most people have, what you soon realise is that a lot of people, like, everyone's so busy all the time. A lot of people have their blinders on and they're just focused on themselves and their workload and what they have to do every single day. So you might have a manager through no fault of their own who sees Alex, and I know Alex is doing really, really well and putting all the effort in every single day. And I just go, man, I'm so thankful I've got Alex every single day at that level. He's killing it. And then that's where it finishes. Because he doesn't realise that you're doing all those things because you are trying to move up.
Yeah.
So he's just thinking, Alex is stoked to come into work every single day and just kill it at the role he's doing. He must love that job. I'm going to leave him there. You need to make your intentions known. And the thing is, like you said, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah.
So you're making your intentions known. You're not going up saying, hey, I'm going to be the next manager. Give me what are like 3 things that I need to have completed for you by the end of this month, and then give me the role.
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, I really want to be able to progress my career within this business. What are the things that you see from me that I could do better? What extra things could I take on? I'm not asking for extra money or anything like that. I'm just asking for an opportunity to maybe have a little bit of career guidance and some coaching and some opportunities to actually improve myself so I can add more value to the organisation.
Well, that kind of falls into my next point, which is drop your ego.
Yes.
And be in a position to learn.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, you think you're ready, and you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Especially people management. If you're going from a doing the job to a managing people doing the job,
mm-hmm.
like you said before, completely different skill sets. And people management is by far the hardest part.
Yep.
Okay, the job in most cases is easy. If it's not easy, you're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or you haven't learned from the right people yet. Most people's core responsibility is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Managing people's perception of that is very difficult.
Yeah, everyone thinks that leaders or managers should just treat everyone the same, and it's not the case.
No.
And because we're all different, and that's the hardest thing of leadership is actually being able to have the emotional intelligence to understand what makes people tick. Funny story about being humble. So being humble obviously means that you're willing to learn, because if you're not humble, it usually means that you think you know everything. Mm-hmm. I'm a fight fan, right? I'm a fight fan. I love watching the fights. The best example of being humble is when I started doing jiu-jitsu a couple of years ago before I busted my knee. So I am one of the 99% of males in the world who overestimated his ability to defend himself. Mm-hmm. So I've always been sports person. I've always been fairly athletic. I'm a decent sized guy. And so just like every other bloke, I overestimated my ability to defend myself. So I threw myself into jiu-jitsu, and I have never been more humbled in my entire life, because I realized I have no idea what I'm doing on the ground. Absolutely no idea. And there's real consequences for not knowing what you're doing on the ground, right? So it was a real mindset adjustment for me when I was doing that, because I was like, holy crap, like you sort of go in there thinking that you've got an idea and you just don't. And going into management's exactly the same. Like you said, you might be the absolute best at your position, but it is a completely different skill set. And the problem is that usually when you're the best at your position, you know about it. And you're like, I'm the best. That's why they're looking at me in management, because I'm the best. And then the problem is your ego gets too inflated, and your ability to actually learn new skills gets diminished with that.
Yeah.
So you've just got to check your ego. You got to stay humble, because the other thing too is that your staff don't respond to you if you've got the ego when you're the manager. So then you're just going to make your management journey even more difficult. Yeah. Because you're going to have your staff on your back straight away as well, and they'll be looking at. They'll be trying to find the ways that, like the mistakes that you've made, they'll be looking for those. Instead of them helping you so you all get better together, then you get that tall poppy syndrome where people start trying to take you down. Yeah. So just stay humble. It's so important.
Interesting story that you just, the jiu-jitsu story.
Yeah.
Was that before or after you thought you could beat Ronda Rousey in a fight?
That was afterwards.
Interesting. Now, moving on from as part of the management skills thing, mm-hmm. I think if you want to do it well, seek some training outside of your organisation.
100%.
If your organisation offers it, great, definitely do it. Throughout the motor trade, there was zero. There was in dealerships, or manufacturers would offer sales level training, and dealer principal training, and nothing in between. Yeah. Right, that middle management, the training was non-existent. There are some programs out now, but do some research, read some books, follow some YouTubers. There is enough resource out there now, but do some extra stuff surrounded by on the subject of people management, because that stuff is invaluable. Because you're not moving into a promotion is very rarely an up skilled version of your current role. Usually a promotion is now you're taking on responsibility of people.
Yeah.
And the people part it does not come naturally. I don't think people management comes naturally, or if it does, you might be able to interact with people, but you're not necessarily going to be able to motivate, initiate, create. You're not going to be able to do those things. So teach yourself, give yourself the tools to add.
Yeah. And if you think it comes naturally, check your ego.
Check your ego.
Because I know there's people sitting there right now going, no, it does come naturally, and I've got all this emotional intelligence. Check your ego. We can all get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can absolutely all get better. I think that's really, really important, is that I wrote that down too, so developing yourself. I think there's a lot of things in this. So yeah, there's training that you can usually go on with your own organisation. Put your hand up for that stuff. You could do a degree if you wanted to. You could do a short course. You could do anything like that to learn different skills. Reading books, like you said, there are that many self-help books about all these different subjects that you could go to, and you could read those things just to upskill yourself.
If you're not a reader, and I'm not a reader,
you can do
audiobooks, YouTube.
Yeah.
There are people out there. There's, I don't know how much content. There's something like the stats, something like there's a 1.2 million hours of content added to YouTube every day. So the resources there, you just got to find it.
That's right. One of the other things I wrote down too is make yourself an asset to the business by learning the roles of the people around you as well. So when we're talking about making those relationships and speaking to people that maybe you affect every single day, ask them more and more about that role. Get them to show you some of the small processes they have to do on a day-to-day basis. Because then what happens is when that person goes down sick, let's talk about sales. Registrations clerk. Probably a really good example. If someone doesn't know how to register a car and it's the last day of the month and they've gone down sick, you could be that person where it's like, hey, I know the system. Or I'm accredited to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you become an invaluable asset. And that's, again, puts you a step above everyone else. On this point, and this is something that neither of us did very well in our career, and I think it's pretty relevant. When you're doing all this training and personal development and everything like that, document everything as you go.
Yes.
So the problem with doing all this stuff is that you've done it, but there's no one else does. But document everything, because if you can actually, it's like having a resume for a promotion. So if you keep a list of either processes that you've created and implemented and the results of those processes. So I put this in and our performance has gone from here to here. If you write down all the books you've read, if you write down all of the courses that you've done, what you've learned out of those things, your achievements, like, it might sound a little bit wanky, but these things actually do matter.
Well, what I want to say to that is, yes, you may be able to do it, but can you quantify it?
That's right.
Can you show it? Can you show a plan of how you got there? Because that's what a business is actually built on. Everyone says business is about people, but let's be honest, we're not finding the right people. Okay, but if you've now got a document or a plan that helps maybe not the right person get to that role, or to be able to take the next step, or to be able to do a job effectively, you're halfway there.
This is something that I've always seen just done so poorly in so many organisations, and this is about that. Like, you made the point before about people who harbour the knowledge.
Yep.
Now, I don't think this is necessarily harbouring the knowledge. I think a lot of it is laziness. When people are like, I know how to do all these things and I can train you on how to do them. Do an employee manual.
Yeah.
Do a manual on how that process works. So then, new starter comes in, hey, there you go. This is all the information. If you have any questions on it, or if this doesn't make sense to you, come and see me, we can run through it. But straight away, you've got a document where you can give instant value to someone, which then means that your input and your effect is scalable. Because if you don't have that, you can only do the one-on-one thing.
Yeah.
But if you do have that, you can do 1-on-20, you can do 1-on-50. You can send it out to new starters 2 weeks before they actually begin their role and go, hey, these are some things that you need to know. I remember my first training experience for my first role at my last job. there was one process which was how to create a receipt for a deposit through a system. And the system's old school. It's like green screen, like MS-DOS sort of system. And the guy had obviously done this process 2 million times before. So he showed me how to do it once. And it was so fast, he didn't even really give me an opportunity to actually take notes about what the steps are, because there's like 10 different screens that you have to go through to do this thing. So he did it once really quick and goes, yep, cool, got it, see ya. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Whereas if he just had a step-by-step manual, he wouldn't even need to show me. He could just go, here you go, here's the manual, just read that, go through at that pace. So document your processes, document everything, your achievements.
And refine them, because
yes.
over time you're going to learn, okay, this actually wasn't effective. Me just handing the manual to someone didn't really work, so that needs to be in consultation with someone. So
I definitely think it's you do both. You sit down with them and you go, look, this is your manual, let's run through some things, and you go through the processes and stuff with that particular staff member. But I think the manual's such a good reference tool to actually be able to go back to as well. So document everything. Now, one thing I'm going to say too, and this is a bit of a cover your ass sort of thing, document key interactions with managers or leaders, because let's be honest, you are not going to be given the red carpet through to your promotion by every single manager you work for. You will sometimes find yourself working in an organisation where you do have a manager who for some reason just doesn't like you. And it can be personality clashes, it can be their fear of you taking their role, it could be for any number of reasons. And you may find that you have a particular manager that has a personal vendetta against you. Now, that's when documenting everything's really important as well. So that if something does come to a head down the track, you can go, hey, these are the emails that I've received, these are my responses to them, these are the multiple times when I've had conversations to the effect of threatening my job or something like that. Like it's a very important thing to do, just to cover your ass as well, if you do want to have a career within an organisation, because that can be a very difficult scenario to work your way around.
I suppose it's just managing communications, and if you do have a performance meeting with your direct reports or something like that, ask them to send it to you in writing, just so we're all on the same page.
Yep.
In a lot of times, a lot of bad things happen because things are miscommunicated.
Yeah. Correct.
Conversation or emails especially can be taken out of context. So it's better to have a conversation, but also have that backed up with a bit of an action plan after. Whenever I've done a performance review with someone, I've always sent them a note after, and to anyone that was in the room, with addressing the points there, so that we're all clear.
Everyone's on the same page.
You've got to be on the same page. So communication is important. Because
that goes both ways. So I might be talking about you having a conversation with a direct report from you, but you also might be at a management level with a staff member who, again, for some reason, just doesn't like you, who might be participating in tall poppy syndrome type things, who might be trying to find mistakes or ways that they can tear you down to your direct report, which is why if you ever have any of these conversations, you do need to document everything that's spoken about as well.
And I suppose that's a good segue into my next point, which is know your worth. And if you can see the pathway disappearing because of someone like that, and if that's an immovable object, move. Okay? It's not worth the stress. If you've done everything right, and you genuinely have done everything right, not you just think you've done everything right, you've got plans in place, you've got the support of the people around you. If you could ask one of your colleagues and have them honestly say that yes, you're ready for it, and you can't see that opportunity arising, you've done everything that you can, go somewhere else. Don't be afraid to go somewhere else. Okay, right. Find someone that is going to appreciate it. You need to know your worth. And also know your worth with some of the things that you said about doing other people's, or knowing other people's roles. I started off as a cadet where I knew everything about everything. So I knew I could do, I knew some things about everything.
Yeah.
So I could step in and do a lot of the roles. Where it worked detrimental to me is I was expected to do it every time, which took away from my core role.
Yeah.
And then I was getting criticised for not achieving my core roles.
Yeah.
Okay, so
sure.
you have to be very careful of that balance.
Yeah.
It's really, really good to know it, but just have an expectation of them. Okay, we've got to appreciate this takes time.
Mm-hmm.
What's in it for me?
Yep.
Okay.
100%. So I wrote down on here too, and it's a bit of a philosophical point.
Mm-hmm.
Be like water, as Bruce Lee said.
Yeah.
So water is adaptable. So when a curveball gets thrown your way, adapt to it. Like, you need to be malleable to a situation.
You think you know what's expected when you first get into an organisation.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing too, like, it's face value of any organisation you walk into, it looks a certain way.
Mm.
And it takes working there for a little while until you realise that it's not that way. It might be better, it might be worse, you don't know. But you need to be adaptable and you need to be able to roll with the punches. And, you know, success is never a straight line.
Mm.
Success doesn't just go like this. There will be drawbacks, whatever happens, you need to be able to adapt to it. So, you know, water is persistent. You do need to have resilience, you do need to stick at things.
Mm.
So, you know, everyone thinks that water is softer than a rock, but look at a cliffside and it's just water persistently banging against that cliffside over and over and over again. And the cliffside eventually erodes away, but the water will stay there. So, you know, you need to be persistent, resilient, but patience is so important. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. And the problem is, in this day and age of social media and instant gratification, we think, I've done a month's worth of really good work, where's my promotion?
Yeah.
You know, like, everything that is worth doing takes time and takes discipline. So you just need to stay the course. And again, when you get these curveballs, being adaptable is going to make it easier for you to stay the course. Because too many people, and I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago, too many people get into that flow state when they're just getting all green lights. All green lights, win, and then they have a minor loss and then just derails them completely. Because they just got used to the idea of winning all the time. And winning's easy. Winning's the easy thing. If you're having success every single day, that's easy. It's when you have losses that you learn and you actually need to show something from yourself as well.
Yeah.
So you do need to just be adaptable, persistent, but resilient.
I'd also say too that meteoric rise is dangerous.
Yes.
If you're getting promoted, if you're doing it faster than the rate that you can learn the new role, you'll get left out to dry. You'll get to a point where you don't know what you're doing, and it's all going to come crashing down. Okay, so it's okay to take the right steps. I've worked with people in the past who have had the presence of mind to not take promotions because they haven't got the tools yet and are working on the tools. And that's a good thing. That will show sustainability. That patience shows sustainability in our role. Whereas I know we've said it in the past, you know, bite off more than you can chew. But there's going to be a point where you choke.
Yeah, and look, I think every promotion, like you've said before, it's a job or a skill set you haven't done before.
Yeah.
So anytime you're getting promoted is biting off more than you can currently chew.
Yep.
But I think that's a really, really good point, because you can also get yourself into a tricky situation when you've had that meteoric rise maybe within one organisation and then you have failed at that. And again, failure is not permanent. But the problem is a lot of people go, well, I got to that level, so now I'm going to go to a different organisation. My expectation is that I'm going to get a job at that level because I've worked my way up to that level. But you failed at it because you don't necessarily have the skill set yet. So then sometimes you can get into that tricky thing of you might apply another organisation for a lower level role, but it might be with someone who goes, okay, so what did you just do in your career? Okay, so you're doing this role up here, but you're applying for this one. Well, I'm concerned that you're not actually just applying for this role, you're actually applying for this one, but you just want your foot in the door.
Yeah, but that's fine. And just say, yeah, I'm willing to earn it, re-earn it. There's no problem in that, in my opinion. There's no problem with doing it that way. And that's probably the best way to do it because you've proven yourself and you've won your team over as well, your new team, because you've sat in the trenches with them.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing I wanted to bring up as well. So one thing that's really, really tough, and obviously this is pretty relevant for me and my family at the moment, is people who want to have families. And obviously women are typically worsely affected by having a family than men are. And it's just a unfortunate reality of life is that if you want to have families, unfortunately girls, you got to have the kid.
Yep.
It can be really, really tough. And I guess it's one of those things where what I have found this year, so obviously Amanda took some time off work when she was on maternity leave, and we made a decision as a family with everything going on in 2020 and COVID and my career and all that sort of stuff, that it was actually the right idea because she wanted to go back and continue her career because she does want to climb the ladder and what she's doing. And it made more sense to us to do it that way. Now, obviously, we are potentially looking at having a second child as well, which means there's going to be a delay then in her career. I think this is one of those points of time where you really need to have honest conversations with each other about what your actual goals are as a family. Because as much as career progression and financial reward and all these things are really important to a lot of people, when you do have kids, you obviously are having them for a reason most of the time. If you're a career-minded person, you're choosing to take some time out of the workforce to have a child, it's probably because you really want to do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes in life you can't have both. So you can't, keep progressing your career as well as focusing on child. So you really need to sit down, have honest conversations and go, okay, what are our priorities? And, this is not going to hold us back forever. Like Amanda's taken basically sort of 12 months out at this point in time and now gone back to her role and is doing some good things. I'm taking some time out of my career as well to try to support that at the moment. And look, I guess I'm sort of pivoting a little bit this year as well too with things like the podcast. Obviously it's something that I've seen an opportunity to start now that I don't have the day-to-day grind of the workplace. But it is just one of those things that I think a lot of people get extremely disheartened, women in particular, because you take this time out of the workforce and then all of a sudden your priorities have shifted and they don't feel like they can go back into the workforce and have the same impact or career. And I don't think that's right. I think you will probably, again, this is one of those being adaptable things.
Yeah.
You will take a slight step back, but it's not a forever thing. Like, kids can go to daycare, they can go to school, they can, you can invest a lot of your time in them, but you've also got to have your own life as well at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
But
don't lose yourself in.
Don't lose yourself, but it just comes down to having clear, defined goals.
Yeah.
Because if your clear, defined goal is to get that next promotion, but you're taking maternity leave, you're going to be upset with yourself. But if you can have a clear, defined goal which states, all right now I'm taking maternity leave because my child's my priority, and then in X amount of time I'm looking at going back to the workforce, and then these will be the goals, and like when I get back to the workforce, and then this is the plan of how I'm going to achieve those goals, whether it's childcare or your partner helping out or whatever it is, you need to have clearly defined goals that suit your particular point you're at in life.
A question I have for you in your situation, I don't mean to say situation as like in a bad thing, but do you, when you have a child, do you think to the future, or is everything very in the now because everything's happening now?
It's both. So you absolutely do think to the future. The number one thing that I will say as a new parent is I had no idea how difficult it would be to do anything once I had a child.
Mm.
I had no idea. And it is extremely labor intensive. It is extremely mentally taxing, because especially when you're throwing in things like sleep deprivation and those sorts of things, it is really difficult to actually accomplish a lot of things once you have a child. So, look, a lot of your day-to-day is surviving. A lot of it is, if you can get some structures in place, obviously, for me, time management's become really, really important, because there are a lot of things I'm still trying to achieve, but it feels like I've got less time than I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, again, it comes back to having goals and what your priorities are at the time. So I think you always need to be looking at and planning for the future.
Yeah.
You always do. Because
but having a genuine look at yourself, have you done that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at the moment, so we spoke about it as a family, and our short-term goal is to keep Nate alive.
Yeah.
But also my role has gone to a support role at this point in time, because Amanda is back at work as well as studying for a master's degree, which is a lot of work.
Yep.
So the master's degree finishes at the end of next year.
Yep.
And obviously if she passes. When she passes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have definitely looked to the future, because then we're obviously having conversations about second child and all that sort of stuff there as well. So it is doing both at the same time, but you got to be able to juggle. And again, this is where being adaptable, I think, is really super important. I had a certain idea in my head of who I was in my career identity, which is now completely gone. It's completely changed, completely different. Sure. And that can be crushing when you've got a particular identity and then you are like, all right, well, now I'm this completely new person. So being adaptable, I think, is so important.
And I suppose comfortable with your decision.
Yeah, well, look, my whole thing in life is that you can only do it once. So you're going to have to make decisions. And this is actually one of the points that I wrote down too, which I hadn't even got to, but makes a lot of sense to this point, is everything that you do is a risk. So when you have a child, obviously there are risks involved with that. There are health risks, there are financial risks, there are time risks to having a child. There are career risks that you take by choosing to have a child. Look, say what you want, but a lot of employers, without saying it, won't hire women who are around the age of 30 years old if they haven't had kids, because they know that at some point in time they might want to have children. And
it is illegal to do that.
It's illegal to do it, and they'll never admit it, but it
Yeah.
happens, right? It's a fact of life. And again, I guess you've got to think about it from a small business perspective. If you've got an applicant that you know may take some time out, or an applicant that you know won't take any time out, and there's not going to be that maternity leave cost to your business that you might be struggling to make ends meet anyway, a lot of the times they're going to go the safe route, right? It's unfortunate, it's a fact of life. But everything in life is a choice, everything in life is a risk, and it is a decision. And that, number one, planning for the future is super important. I mentioned last week about having some money aside as a nest egg. That can make it really easy for you to adapt and for you to roll the punches. So that can be something really good that you can sort of future-proof yourself. Starting like we've started our investment portfolios and all those sorts of things too. Again, that's like a future-proofing plan to try to put some things in place that can assist us to do those things. But at the end of the day, every choice you make has consequences, both good and bad. You need to make educated choices, and whatever you choose to do, you need to be comfortable with that choice, because you can't make a different one now.
Yeah.
Or you can. Like, you can go, all right, I tried to do this thing, and your choice might be trying to go for a new job at other organisation, and you don't, and you get it, and then you realise you don't like it. So I'm not saying stay in that job, but what I'm saying with things like having a kid, once you've had the kid, you can't unhave the kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all about, you can only do life once. So looking backwards and go, oh, I wish I didn't do that, I wish I didn't do that, and actually feeling bad about it, I think just makes, it's negativity in your life. But if you're looking back at your life, like what this podcast is for me, I find this very cathartic, where I can look back at my life and go, these are the choices that I made. These things did well for me, these things did poorly. So maybe if I can throw it out there for other people who might be in a similar situation, you can use that information to make a more educated choice with what it is that you're doing.
I think that to culminate all that, it's take educated risks.
Mm-hmm.
Do not be completely risk averse.
Yeah, if you want to get anywhere in a career, you've got to take risks.
Or in life.
Yeah, in life.
In life, it's forget career. There might be other opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
Take educated risks. So, if you could write it down and like if the risk, and you wrote all the pros and cons of the risks, and it tipped more on the pro side, do it.
Yeah. But again, that's where it comes back to having goals, because you're only going to take a risk if it gets you closer to your goals, right? You're not going to. Sorry. You should only take a risk if it's going to get you closer to your goals. And look, those goals could be anything. It could be like I went skydiving a few years ago. That's a risk, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. But obviously, I had a goal of doing that and ticking it off the bucket list, and it was really, really fun. So you do, I think, goal setting at the end of the day, when it comes to career and when it comes to life and it comes to moving forwards and whatever it is you're doing, it all comes back to goal setting.
Just having a plan.
Having a plan. Knowing what you were shooting towards. Because otherwise, like I said in that clip I put up last night, if you don't have a goal and you don't know what you're shooting towards, you'll feel like you're putting all this work and effort in, but you don't feel like you're getting anywhere because you actually don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest bit of advice I'd give you out of anything is go and look at your goals right now. What are they? Does your wife or does your husband know what your goals are? Because if they don't, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because again, this is like what we're saying.
How can you be held accountable to them?
Well, not even held accountable. How can they support? It's like we were saying earlier about making your intentions known to your manager that you may want to climb the tree. Well, make your intentions known to your spouse or your partner and go, hey, these are things that I want to achieve in life. So you can work towards them together as a team. I think a lot of people don't have goals or don't realise that they have goals that the other person doesn't really know about.
I've spoken about it before in the pod, and I was pre-30 years old. Mm-hmm. I was the most goal-oriented guy in the world. Post-30, I had nothing. Mm-hmm. And it took me 2, 3, 4 years to start resetting them.
Yeah.
So I've lived both.
Yeah, and look, I've been exactly the same. Like, probably my biggest issue in life, if I really had to quantify it, is number one, I've never really known what I want to do with my life. And number two, I've always had high standards that I've set for myself. So that can be a difficult thing because you set a high standard, but you don't 100% know what you want to be applying those standards to. Yeah. And it's something that I grapple with a lot.
See, and that's actually something I can't help with. I get really frustrated in that in you because to me, in my brain, there is no way that I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
It's so rational to me. If there's something I want, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So it boggles my mind. I can't mesh the same way your brain meshes because I don't know how you could not know what you want.
Well, and I guess it's one of those things when I guess you look at the different categories in life, and the one thing I've always known I always wanted was have a family. So now I've started that, but it's like, again, I think a lot of parents give themselves parent guilt because I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job. And I don't think I'll ever feel like I'm doing a good enough job at being a parent. And, Amanda, for example, yesterday, she came home, she had a little giggle yesterday because she went out with some friends of hers that have slightly older kids. And she was like, I could have been that relatable, inadequate mum from the movies that you watch because because they got older kids, they've got all of the extra stuff that we didn't even know that you need.
Right.
You know, it's just stuff like that.
More advanced, yeah.
Yeah, just more advanced in it. So that's the thing, I guess for me, I've always known that I wanted to have a family, and now I've got the family side of things, but then it's like, from the career front, like I fell into the motor industry.
Yeah.
I fell into it. Cars were never my thing. But I found when I fell into it, there were certain aspects of that job I really, really enjoyed. And it was the people element of it. And this is why I think, for me at the moment, this and you guys is what I'm finding really enjoyable at the moment, because it's people. It's the people element. And I guess having a family is about people. Doing a podcast about development is about people.
Yeah.
Like,
could it also be the fact that once you are in anything, you'll figure out how to enjoy it?
Yeah, I also have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
So once I start something, generally I'm 100% invested in that thing. But I've always kind of been like a jack of all trades and a master of none. So...
But that falls even more into what I'm saying. So if you got a job as a bricklayer, you'd want to be the best.
The best bricklayer.
If you got a job as an astronaut, you'd want to be the best at it. So that's the tip, is get into it. Get into anything. Yeah. Because you're going to find it.
For sure. And that's the thing. So for me, that will come, but it's not the family priority right now.
For sure.
So at the moment, the 100% thing I'm throwing myself into is family, supporting Amanda to do a master's while having, like, the amount of work she does is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, shout out to the wife. And look, shout out to all the working mums out there, and even the non-working mums, like if you're studying or whatever. I got a friend of mine I think about a lot, who she had 2 kids when she was fairly young, and has put herself through uni, worked during the whole time, support her family, and I don't know how she did it. I honestly don't know how she did it. Like, mums are incredible human beings, because the way they just juggle everything is just ridiculous.
But see, I think, like, I'm sorry, mums, but I feel like...
Coming from the kid with God, no kids.
But I feel like I'd always find a way to survive. It's human nature.
Yeah, but there's a difference.
It's human nature when you're put in a situation that is not very nice. It's to survive.
Are you saying having children is not very nice?
No, but you just said it's hard. You just said like you don't know how they did it. Well, what I'm saying is that once you're in it, you know.
Oh yeah, of course. And look, you're exactly right. Human beings, we do adapt, and it is usually just about survival. But the one big key mental change that happens is I'm someone who has always been laser focused on whatever it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now I can't be.
Yeah.
And that is difficult.
Well, it's not that you can't be, it's just you haven't figured out how to be.
No, it is that you can't be. If you've got children, you cannot be laser focused on a job all day, every day. You just can't.
Oh, I'm not saying you have to do it all day, every day.
No, but that's what I used to be like.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset adjustment that...
But adapt to finding something.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to talk about something different to the subjects that we've been speaking about, but definitely ties into work. I had a phone call from a friend during the week who was put in a situation where an opportunity came up for their company to take advantage of.
Right.
But on a very short time frame.
Okay.
And when he went and spoke to the decision makers about it, just got niched because it was a pretty advanced. Basically, the story was a YouTuber had approached a company wanting something on a short notice. And the people that run the organisation are a lot older,
right?
And didn't understand
don't understand the value of it.
The last video had 6 million views.
Wow!
And they had 40,000 Instagram followers. But what I wanted to say, or my advice to him was, I asked him, I said, did you get in a fight about it? And he said, yeah, I did. Because I can see it and they can't.
Mm.
And I said, but the reason why they can't see it is because you've moved that conversation from a conversation about the facts of the situation to an ego battle on who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So, patience, adaptability, and if he was going to take that next step forward now, it's plan it in a way that he can convey that information, he can communicate that information to the stakeholders in a way that works for them, so you get the actual message across. And think about how many times you've had a conversation with someone, whether it be a partner, whether it be a friend, whether it be a work colleague, where the facts and the truth of the situation are now sidelined.
They're irrelevant.
To an ego battle.
Yeah, 100%. I've had many points in my career where I've made that mistake, which full well about. That's a really tough thing. Was there an opportunity for him to just do and beg forgiveness?
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to send $90,000 out the door without anybody noticing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Look, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
Well, it's not tough. To me, it was clear as day.
Yeah.
So that scenario was probably never going to change, but going forward, you know that you need to communicate in a way that works for the recipient.
Yeah. Was there a way of? I mean, I'm sure there was like a presentation involved or something like that.
No, it was a phone call. It was shit on the YouTuber side. They were very slack.
Yeah.
They were desperate. And they put the unrealistic time frame on it. And what I said to him is this was probably never going to happen. But how can you future-proof?
Yeah.
Because now he's got to overcome the battle of, he's got to convince the other stakeholders the value of doing something like this, but maybe taking a step forward and going, hey, building a plan and approaching someone now and saying, hey, let's do it, but let's do it like this.
Yeah. I guess it comes back to one of those things that we mentioned many weeks ago on the podcast about actually having a presentation put together if you want to do something.
Yep.
I can see how, like, there are no $90,000 phone calls.
No.
You know, like, if I'm picking up the other end of that line and you want 90 grand, like, I guess the way that you would take it as a business owner is you want this much investment from me, but you haven't even invested enough time to come to me with a real proposal.
Yeah.
And show me the upside, the real upside of it.
Yeah, but I'd say even more to that, there is value there. That person couldn't sell it to you. As a business owner, I needed to make it happen.
Yeah, but how, again, like you said, you're, as a business, like, these people are older people, they don't know the value in it, so they're not going to see the value in it with a phone call. They might see the value in it if you can send them a proposal going, hey, this is where we're at, he's got, 40,000 Instagram followers, this is the typical upside from that sort of following, and, because, again, like, social media influencers and YouTubers, it's a very new phenomenon, and for a lot of people who are running big companies, they've gotten there through years and years of toll, which means they are older, they're an older demographic, who often don't understand how powerful these tools can be.
That's what I said, it's not, that's what I've told my friend to do, that he needs to take charge of that, and he needs to put all that plan together, because expecting the ragtag YouTube squad to do it,
not going to happen. No, and that's sort of what I was focusing on, is if your friend could go, okay, I'm going to put the research together and show what the real numbers are for the upside would be, that show that $90,000 investment is going to get payback tenfold.
Yeah.
Then you're going to set yourself up for success. And again, like, just because you've had this opportunity come up last minute doesn't mean that you could then go back to that YouTuber and go, hey, let's make an opportunity.
Yeah. The time frame was unrealistic before.
Yeah.
But how do we make it work?
For sure.
Yeah.
Because it's going to work for both parties. Because at the end of the day, if that YouTuber's getting paid 90 grand, they have an incentive to make something happen as well.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, it's very interesting. And I think it's so relevant with the world that we live in at the moment. Traditional media is not effective anymore. Or not as effective as it used to be. Like the Super Bowl advertising. Super Bowl advertising I've always found really, really interesting. And I've loved watching the Super Bowl ads every single year because like the creatives actually put together only their best possible content for those, because it costs you like $5 million for a 30-second segment during the Super Bowl, because they know so many eyes are going to be on it. Now, the social media space and the YouTube space, you're actually having the ability to get the same amount of eyes on something that people would traditionally have only seen on Super Bowl day.
Well, I think you'll find when we talk about standard media, so forgetting Super Bowl, but if you did like TV advertising was the holy grail, it was by far the most expensive form of advertising. But traditional TV channels aren't getting anywhere near the numbers as some of these local YouTube or Facebook or Instagram guys.
And I think the biggest thing about I feel like, and look, I could be completely off the mark on this, but I feel like YouTubers are possibly a more targeted market, or social media personalities are possibly a more targeted market than traditional. Like, put it this way,
definitely, I can quantify it exactly. You had the choice of 5 TV channels.
Yeah.
SBS, ABC, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10.
Yeah.
Okay, those 5 channels are supposed to cater to a countless amount of different psyches or personalities.
Yep.
No, YouTube is definitely more targeted because now the consumer has a choice to watch something that suits them.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can then tailor your products to suit that exact consumer, and it would make your marketing dollars way more effective. Like, for example, I follow a guy called Cameron Haynes. He's a hunter and an ultramarathon runner. And I follow him because he's a really interesting guy, and I'll look at all the stuff anyway, and he's got a sponsorship with Under Armour, because Under Armour creates products for those two pursuits. It's perfect targeted advertising, because I'm going to watch what he's doing anyway, regardless of whether he's sponsored or not.
Yep.
But then you're watching what he's doing, you go, okay, well, he's using this equipment, or, like, it's targeted advertising. Whereas if you have, the Channel 9 news at 5, and you've got mum and dads watching the news, what ads do you pump on that are actually, that are going to be as effective?
Yeah, you've got new cars and tampons in the same thing.
Yeah, exactly right. So, I think that, the electronic social media space is something that if you are an older executive watching this, unlikely, but if you are, you need to actually open your eyes to that stuff, because it is so powerful.
Yeah. It
is so powerful. Like, I just think about the amount of dollars that have been thrown at even just like traditional print media or TV advertising or radio advertising for so many years by companies just because it's what they've always done.
Yep.
Like, doing something just because it's the same way you've always done it isn't good enough. You don't go, this is our marketing plan. Like, what are we going to do for marketing this month? We came up with this 10 years ago and it was successful for us back then, so we're going to keep going back to it. Yeah. Like, you've actually got to update your thinking on all these things because the world's changing.
Yeah.
And you've got to change with it.
Yep.
Yeah, super relevant.
I reckon.
It'll be interesting just to sum up if there is an update with that. So keep tabs on that situation for us, and if something does come out of it, definitely let us know.
For sure.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys. Well, look, I hope that you enjoyed that presentation. Obviously, if there's anything out of that prezzo that you think needs addition to, or if you are let's say that you've got a specific circumstance that you're in and you want to know some strategies on how to deal with that, let us know in the comments. But hey, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next RDO.